Okay, take two. Hey, you guys are still here? You guys are still here. How's the audio sounding? Thank you, Naughty Cheese. Thank you, wonk.org. Let me know if there's any chop. We have currently Ableton up and running. We have no chop. We have video working. We're going to keep rolling and we're going to see how this goes. You guys are legends. Only certified legends in this chat. Round of applause for yourselves. We're going to open up the project. We got video, we got sound. Everything's looking and sounding great. Where would I be without you guys? Where would I be? I'd be doing this, but without an audience. And that wouldn't be as fun. Okay, the project is now open. And I'm going to let you guys to tell me if there's any chop. And if there is, then I can diagnose the problem. Oh my goodness, we got a sub. It's Jackson. Thank you so much for the sub. We're still good. We're still good. Still zero chop. Yes. Guys, we've done it. We're chop free. Video's good. You know what? I'm gonna just dive right into the song again because it's time to celebrate. It's Jackson. Thank you so much for the sub. Classic turning it off and back on. Absolutely. It works every time. I don't know why I didn't do it earlier. Take two of the stream is live and we're running smoothly. All we needed was a reboot, ladies and gentlemen. That's all we needed. All right, let's play the song one more time because we need to refresh our memories after all that nonsense. Let's go. Here we are. What are we waiting for? Okay. That's the song again. That time there was a bit of chop. That was a bit of CPU freezing, and that's my fault. I forgot to turn the oversampling off on my limiters, which means it was using tons of CPU to, because this is like my proper like final mix session. I probably should have like bounced down some stuff before I played it, but yeah, we were having some overloads there, but we're all good. I turned the oversampling off on pretty much all the limiters now because there were quite a few going on, so apologies for that. Basically, in case you don't know, oversampling means like it samples everything at like 4, 8, 16 times as many times, which means it gets like high resolution audio. But I didn't really need that right now. So I've been turning, because that's only really good when you're doing like final mix downs. For the purposes of demonstration, don't really need it. So we're turning it off. Hopefully my CPU won't spike now. Jason, the session only uses 6% when idling, as in like not playing. So no, it's not CPU beast and it's not frozen. When I play the actual thing, you'll see the CPU spike. Except I think we're frozen, so you won't see that. Oh, we love to see it. All right. Hey, but we don't have choppy audio, and I think that's a win, as far as I can tell. So that's probably why you were seeing only 6% CPU, because that was the idling. That was the idling amount. The actual amount was like up in the 60s. But let's see how we go. I think my computer has COVID. In all honesty. Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure I think I need to go get my computer vaccinated. Look, there's no point in me doing this if the screen is frozen. Like, I need to show you stuff. Hey, I think we're back. How's this? We got movement again? Yeah. Is the actual screen still frozen there? Let's see. Hey, we're good. All right. So let's jump in. You guys will just have to keep telling me if my if it freezes. I'll just have to keep resetting it. But let's jump in. Let's go from the top. We got the drums up here, and I really love the drums in this song. Now, I will have to give you a bit of a disclaimer. The way I made this song, I've spoken about it in PR and like on interviews and stuff, or like in my press release for the song. I started with like a very small sample of noise, like a very small sort of sample of non-musical synthetic noise, which I then used to create all the other sounds in the song. So all the drum sounds, I think pretty much all of them originated from this like piece of noise that I generated using, I think it was my Korg mini log, which is behind the green screen here. And like manipulating that audio using digital processors to make it like a really subby boomy or like really snappy and clappy, making hi-hats out of it, like by repitching, resampling, reprocessing, filtering, all that kind of stuff to make it just shaping the audio as I wanted it. And the idea, and this will answer your question, Just Henry, you asked me to explain the deeper meaning of the song, which is where the title comes from. It's like I wanted to prove to myself that process is a lot more important sometimes than resources. So what you do with what you have rather than what you have. I think I became frustrated with not having like all the like high-end instruments and gear that I wanted and like all that kind of stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to use the most basic stuff that I have at my disposal and then use my creative energy to create something cool out of it. Kind of like if you only have 2 strings on your guitar, but you can still make music. You know what I mean? So not making any excuses, basically. Like, what are you waiting for? Stop stalling. Stop. You have no reason to not be creating and not be expressing yourself just because you don't have what you think you need. So yeah, I was like, let's. I think the original name of this project was called One Sample because I had one sample, and I was like, let's create a whole song out of this. Like let's make a piece of music out of this. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, I did end up incorporating other sounds. Like you can hear there's guitar on there, there's little vocal samples on there. I probably added more additional percussion and all that kind of stuff because there was more to be added. But the core of the song, like the groove, the composition, all came from that one sort of very limited resource idea. So yeah, that's where it was. I'm gonna bet that my computer. Oh, we still got video. Yes, we haven't frozen. I thought we'd frozen again. So yeah, let's listen to the drums like isolated. I love these drums. You can obviously hear there's a lot of processing on there. So we've got a few, like all these blue ones here are the drums. So this main drum rack, there's a lot of bit crushing, there's a lot of distortion. The actual like kind of UK garage groove, I kind of got, like we were discussing before, from the 1975 kind of modern groove sampled kind of their ode to like UK garage, I guess, on their album A Brief Inquiry. I was like, it's like, it was very poetic the way they did it. And I was like, I want to be able to do something equally as poetic. And I have never made a song in that style. So I was like, let's kind of create that swung out groove. So that's the main, I mean, of course you can see I've got a lot, this is my mix project. So there's like a lot of processing and stuff. But the sound is essentially what I had to do in this project for my mix was actually bounce all the drum rack, like all the kick, snares, hi-hats, claps, everything you're hearing here. That's all been bounced down to one track because I had a huge amount of group processing on the entire group because obviously I was using very non-musical and like non-textured samples. I mean, sorry, like sounds that were the result of me manipulating this one sample. And so I had to, what I did is I made duplicates of everything. Like I was like, okay, I need, this sample has to be duplicated so it can be a clap and a snare and a hi-hat and a kick and whatever. And obviously I shaped each of those individually and differently to make them sound like what they were meant to be. And then because they all had that similar sonic characteristic because they originated from the same source, I was like, let's kind of glue everything together with a bunch of distortion, a bunch of bit crushing, filtering, whatever I needed, and make that the instrument. So everything is kind of stands alone as one sound. Like, instead of treating it like this is my kick, this is my snare, whatever. Like I just have a drum rack, which is just my drums. It's just a groove. Kind of like using a drum loop, I guess. That's all one track. And it wouldn't sound as cool and textured as it does if I didn't apply all that group processing and bounce it all down. Like everything's being treated as one thing. I do have a few other layers of percussion on top of that for a bit of like added ear candy and stuff. Like, so if you watch my last stream on Left Behind, you'll know I like to use this plugin called Chromophone. Lets you create physical modeled like metallic and like mallet-y type percussions. So I kind of created that little like ding, kind of like metallic hit there. Got some little like whooshes and stuff. Where is it? Yeah, here, like just like little bits and pieces like this. And then what else? Some crashes. So these are like, yeah, obviously I did end up going in and like emphasizing certain parts with more real perk, sort of create. So this is what takes it from being a concept into an actual song, an actual piece of music. Like I didn't want to be too stringent about my conceptual approach. I wanted to be like, yeah, I have a concept to begin this, but then I want to be able to use that concept and expand upon it and build upon it to create something, consumable and I was worried it would be a little bit too self-indulgent if I was just like, we have to stick to this one silly concept, even if it's at the cost of the quality of the music. So it's like, no, I'm not going to like set those rules and boundaries to myself without having the result be actually musical. So yeah, that kind of beyond what I've done here on the main drum rack, everything else is kind of pretty straightforward, like ear candy embellishments and stuff. And I'm using small room reverbs and filtering and stuff here to differentiate the sections. Like this is the intro section. And I think I'm frozen again. Yep. All right, let's try and fix that really quickly. But that's kind of the drums, to be honest, while I'm fixing that. If there's anything else you guys wanted to know about the drums while I try and fix this freeze. Yeah. I mean, I can still play audio for you. Pretty sure. Yeah. Can you show or discuss a little more of the processing on the singular track? So, yes. I mean, I can show you what I've got in this project. I tried to dig up a lot of what I had on the original sound design process, and to be honest, I think I don't really have access to much of that because I just committed everything to audio. Like this was a very like bare bones origin. I wasn't like keeping track of all my samples and all my sounds, so I don't have the very, very original sound design files here anymore, unfortunately. They're kind of lost in the ether, but I can show you what I've got here in the mix project and sort of discuss a little bit more about how I got there as soon as I get my screen back. Let's go, come on. If this keeps happening, I might have to like postpone this stream. Do you have new versions of projects as you make changes? I've seen some producers have like 20 different project files for when they made changes. Yeah, absolutely. This one was only like 6, to be honest, which is that's a small amount for me. But yeah, generally I go up to the like teens and 20s easily. Yeah, just like saving my project files as I go. Just so in case I want to go backwards. But even in this case, it was just like before I even got to the point of this being like a worthy save, I had already done like all this. I was just like in the zone doing sound design stuff. So by the time this became like the first version of the project, there was already like all this completed like sampling done. Okay, let me keep trying here. How do you think about musical phrasing in drums or any other voice for that matter in terms of how often you'll add variation to the core groove? Is it structured like ABAC or some other way? That's a good question. It really depends on what the song's asking for. In this case, I wanted this to be driving pretty much the whole way through. And this kind of does have like an AB structure. Hey, look at that. We got our screen back. It kind of has like a intro beat drop kind of 1, and then variation of beat drop 1, a small breakdown, and then back into the final groove again. So it's kind of like intro, beat, variation, break, beat again, end. So it's kind of like less of a pop music structure and more of an EDM kind of structure. But if I was writing a song with vocals in it, I wouldn't do that. I would have, well, it depends, but I would probably try to have enough vocal variation to keep it interesting, like a pop song, or like. But this, because the song is kind of driven by texture, and it's quite a short song. Yeah, I felt that like having textural variations throughout the sections was enough to keep it interesting. Can you show some of your mix plugins, like how you treated the audio stems for drums? Sure, I'll show you a little bit. I mean, again, a lot of this is baked in, but I can show you a bit about that. Let's see. My screen's back, which is nice. This is cool. This is unusual for me. I'm using Pro Q3 in like dynamic mode, so you can see there's a few peaks here. So like where the snare hits, it's like boosting that to add dynamic back in, because the original bounce of this sample that I made was very compressed, very distorted. So I needed to give a little more life by boosting certain humps. See the kick here at 58 Hertz, and then like at 106 and 247, which is like kick and snare. Bit of basic EQ, and then my best friend Decapitator. To give it even more distortion. This is more mix stuff. Okay, here we go. This is going crazy. This is doing mid-side. So my original samples were very wide due to like doing certain width processing on certain elements. Like I think I made the claps and snares quite wide. I did a lot of panning, a lot of like, I think I did some chorusing and modulation in certain parts. And then when you emphasize that by saturating the hell out of it, you get a lot of mess in certain parts that you might not want it to be there because everything's been boosted. So here I'm taking some of the energy out of the sides and the mids separately. You can see up here at about 9K, here at about 1800 and 700. When those big snare hits hit, I'm like just sucking a bunch out because I think it was too harsh originally. Anyway, so, and then just a big fat limiter. And I do acknowledge that this is a pretty rudimentary overview. Unfortunately, the nature of this song did not lend itself very well to a sound design breakdown because everything was sample based and like resample based. So, but that does kind of say a lot about this song's production as well, just that alone being like, I was committing things to audio without thinking about it. And that again kind of ties into the concept. On the overall drum group, which is this entire, so this covers the main drums and all the other additional percussion on top. There's a bit of SSL console, channel strip, EQ doing not much. Oh, here we have a parallel chain with, oh, this is actually kind of a neat trick. This is a cool plugin from Waves called Sheps 73, which is an 1173. See? And what I'm doing is overdriving it. I'm overdriving the input so it gets distorted. And then I'm doing another parallel chain, which is clean. So I'm just using like preamp distortion basically to give the impression of the fact that the drums might be running through an analog preamp. I like to mess, because all the sound sources in this were very digital. I like to do this where I sort of send my pristine digital audio through analog processors to kind of give it a bit of analog warmth. Even though these are not real analog, they're still digital, but they're designed to sound analog, at least. And then another 1173, but this time just clean to give it some bit of character. How's the stream looking and sounding, guys? Hopefully we're all good still. Bit of compression, bit of more EQ, why not? Oh, this is cool. Bit of soothe. Again, similar to what the dynamic EQ was doing before. Just pulling some harshness out of the top end. A limiter and then K clip, which is just like a hard clipper. So yeah, that's the drum group. You heard there was a big like drum. These are my drum reverbs. So I got some. Hello Wavy, wanted to tune in and say this is a banger vocal so clean, reminds me of old Kashmir Cat. Ah, hello Yorty, welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the kind comment. It's good to have you here. Timmy the Bear, thanks for following. So yeah, we have these drum reverbs. So basically, again, because I was using sort of dry audio samples as material here, I wanted to create a sense of space, a sense of human movement, a sense of physicality. So I added a drum room reverb, which is just me sending the drums to this reverb, which kind of, it's just Valhalla Room, which is like the best drum, in my opinion, the best room reverb plugin there is. So this is just room reflections. So it's, you know, creating a fake room for me to place my drums in. And I've only got it on pretty subtly. It's just to add a little bit of dimension. And then I have a send here for my like big snare hits. So that comes in occasionally. You can see it's automated here. You can see the automation. So like little certain snare hits. Because I wanted, like, those hits are very short and like snappy, and I wanted some gigantic impact in certain parts of the song. So I just automated the send here to send to this big reverb, which is Valhalla Vintage Verb. Quite long, quite dense, to make it seem cavernous. And that's all there is in terms of sends. It's just processing the drums to give them, because obviously the drums are like so important in this song. What else do we have? Let's moving on from there. We have these effects, which aren't really much. Honestly, I don't even know if it's worth covering this. It's just like noise sweeps and like yeah, like rises and like reverse crashes and stuff. Chimes. Just ear candy. So that kind of mainly all happens in this last drop. Let's move on to the bass, I think. Please stop me if I'm moving too fast or if you'd like me to cover anything specific. I am reading the chat. Sorry, I'm a bit sort of flustered by how my computer was playing up and really being annoying, but we're doing our best. We're powering through. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. This is the bass. So this is the first bass, which is just like this hollow, woody bass. And then you got like a subby bass coming in, a bit more texture. So there's three bass lines, three main bass elements in the song. So there's that woody one, which is just, I don't have the actual synth patch here in this plugin, but in this project, but it's just like probably Serum Saw bass with like notch filtering and like bandpass filtering to make it really woody and throaty, maybe even just formant filtering. You You can do all that in Serum quite easily. Then using some EQ to sort of shape the highs and lows, because I've got the sub taking care of the sub. So you can hear the sub here. Just a classic sub bass with a lot of saturation. Nothing fancy going on, just driving the chords. And then this respace, like detuned, super source type of thing, filtered, and then you can hear there's like a flanger. Flangery or like phasey, I can't remember. Again, it would have been in a previous version of this project before I bounced everything. This project does not lend itself to demonstration very well, unfortunately, but you can hear the phaser on there. Again, that would have been Serum. So probably just saw waves detuned to make a super saw, filtered everything down, so you're only getting the low and the low mids and stuff. Probably whacked on a chorus and a phaser to give it some movement width. Cut all the lows out because we got the sub. And the woody bass is mainly just to give some fizzy high end, actually. Even though it's a bass sound, it's really just contributing to the texture of the top end of that bass, which is why I've got everything, all the bass stuff grouped here to kind of make it one solid piece. Bit of limiting just to make it all squished. And then the side chaining to the drums as well. So, thank you. With the respace, how do you approach making it that wide and still drive the mids? Oh, because I'm only keeping the mids intact, really. So like, you can go crazy with the width processing, and then I'm just cutting everything out of the lows in that respace because I've got a mono sub taking care of that underneath. So yeah, you don't really need to even worry about how wide you're going if you're only using top end material. Of course, I probably would use mid-side processing and like width control just to make sure I'm not going too crazy and not like taking up too much space. I like to just use utility, which has the width control on it, and then mid-side EQ and just regular EQ as well. But yeah, there's a lot of width processing on that. So as long as the sub drives below, say, 120, then go nuts on width. I mean, going nuts is subjective. It depends what else is going on in your mix. If you've got a lot of wide synths or like a lot of other like wide double tracked guitars or like double tracked vocals or something, you want to leave room for them in the sides as well, because obviously that's important. With bass, you can go crazy if you have a very bass heavy song and there's not much else going on. I would say, yeah, I mean, you don't even like, there's not even a specific frequency. Like some people just go bass wide all the way down, you know, like Sophie, for example, would have extremely wide bass in the sub regions, depending on the song. But yeah, I mean, if you want nice, neat and tidy subs, yeah, make all that mono. And then if you want to have some width in the low mids or in the high mids, go crazy. Like, yeah, pull one out. Exactly right. Let's move along. What do we got here? Another little bass element. Yeah, so this is actually another little bass part. I think this is actually an analog synth. It was either I think it might have been my Moog Sub 37 I used, perhaps. Just following the bass lines, but adding a bit more growl. Yeah, so that kind of comes in and out when I want that low mid growl to come in. I just add this layer. Like for example, in the middle of a drop or something, like here it comes. It adds this punch in the low mids, which is really nice. Which Moogs do you have other than Sub 37? I only have the one. I just got the Sub 37. I also have a Prophet 6, and a Korg Mini Log, and a few other toys. But no, I only have one Moog. These are cool, like little wubs. They're kind of acting as a bass line, but it's more like a punctuation, like staccato kind of thing. I wanted to give the impression that the bass was like bursting at the seams. Because all the bass is very filtered in this song, so having these wubs kind of giving this high-end energy for a split second gives the impression that the bass is kind of wanting to explode out of its shell. That reminded you wanted to ask about the hardware instruments I have, and then you heard talking about the meaning of the song and how it's all one sample. Yeah, well, conceptually, like the actual composition and concept of the song is all one sample, but like I mentioned, I went through and made embellishments with other hardware and other instruments and other sounds just to round it off, basically. But yeah, I added, like, for example, I think that's my Moog there, and then Korg Mini Log was some of the other, like these wubs and stuff. So yeah, there's little bits and bobs all through. Because I think the main one sample element is just the drum sounds, which is like 50% of the song. But I did, I think, also incorporate those samples into like some of these bass. Again, cutting all the lows out because we're using the sub to drive everything in the lows. Yeah. So some of these are soft synths, some of these are sample, like manipulated samples with filters. Like you can, for example, if you like get a tiny bit of a sample and loop it, like a tiny bit, so you have like single cycle waveforms from the sample, and then you basically have an oscillator, and then you can use a bandpass filter on that to just create like a wub. I think that's what I did for one of these layers. Can't remember which. Oh yeah, so these chordal elements are pretty fun. How old is the single? Like, when did you start and finish it? Let's have a look. You can see I started it in 2019. October, November 2019 is when I started it, and it was finished towards the end of 2020. Well, towards like September 2020 vibe is when I finished it. So yeah, I mean, it's not super old, but it's kind of, I've worked on it for a bit. Yeah. Again, similar to the bass, I would have used a combination of like soft synth for the chords, and then trying to incorporate some of that original sample in as well. So like I said before, looping tiny little parts of a sample to capture like the texture of that audio, but then morphing it into a totally different thing like a chord pad. Kind of just shows me that I can use my manipulation and processing techniques to turn something into a piece of music, rather than relying on existing musical components. Like, I think that element came from the sample. You can hear there's a fair bit of echo and delay and reverb on there. I think this part is actually as well from the sample, if I remember correctly. Yeah, you can hear there's a texture in there. And I would have just been using Ableton's sampler for this. You're loving the new release and Left Behind. It's your jam. Thank you so much, Abe's Noir. That's very nice to hear. I really appreciate that. How do you stick to finishing that idea and not getting distracted with newer, fresher ideas for a single that you would have started closer to your comeback? Was it something that you were still really attached to months later? Well, I was working on lots of stuff simultaneously, so it wasn't just this one song. I've been working on a more complete body of work for a long time simultaneously to this. So I had constant fresh inspiration and ideas and stuff, like both before I started this and during the process and after finishing it. And so I kind of just like had to set myself like for example, I would have like maybe the song was like 70% done, and then I would put it away for like 3 months while I worked on something else. And then I would come back to it and be like, oh yeah, I want to finish this one. And then I would do the last 30%. So that's why it's difficult to remember some of the production stuff, because it was a long time ago. And also I did other stuff since then. But yeah, like I would definitely come up with the idea portion very quickly, very like early. And then I can leave the idea for ages. Be like, I've got the idea down. That's fine. It's not going anywhere. And then I'll come back later after I've done a whole bunch of other ideas and finished other things. Be like, yeah, okay, time to finish this idea. So, it's a process. Yeah, cool chords. I quite like the chords in this song. Chroma chord is referring to chromophone. So I made this using chromophone. It's kind of like a drone. Yeah, like that, kind of. Carries some harmony there. What do we got here? Another chord section. So there's a few layers of chords going on. This is the part in the breakdown. Distorted, filtered. I love the texture. Like, you know, this wide grit in the sides. It's so cool. So I was using a lot of distortion to manipulate the sounds here, especially with that sampled stuff, because once you run a sound through a distortion, like, it really does change the wave shape. Like, it changes the wave shape of the sound. So you're hearing essentially a new sound. How many 100% finished tracks are you sitting on right now? Like 10. Like, I don't even know, like a lot. That vinyl crackling on the right side is at its own sample or processing on instrument. That'll be, it's part of the instrument. I think it probably would have been some sort of white noise element or something. But then because it's being sent through heavy saturation and distortion, it kind of just crackles. Kind of, yeah, it's a weird thing to describe. But no, I didn't use actual vinyl crackling samples on this. It would have come from other processes. This is from my Korg mini log, I believe. So I would have been playing this live. I think I would have been changing the like sync rate of one of the oscillators as well as the filter. You can hear the modulation going on. Yeah, so there's like a lot of inharmonic content, but it's still droning at the correct, like it's droning in key with the song. You can hear that note. But I'm using modulation on this on other things on the synth to sort of bring in this inharmonic quality to certain parts. And it changes throughout the whole course of the song, like it doesn't really repeat. And I was just playing that live. There's pitch modulation going on. Pretty cool. I love the Korg mini log. Can you please invite George on a stream? We'd love to hear how he approach mixing some singles. That's a great idea. He actually does sometimes stream on the Future Classic channel. He's really good. I'd love to. That's a great idea. What exactly do you send your mix engineer when a song is done? Oh, I send all the stems. So each individual track you see here. Oh, actually, this is a bad example because I mixed this one. I am the mix engineer on this one. But I would, the same thing. I would send all the stems. So if things are grouped like this, sometimes that means I would send just the group. Like for example, if there's a couple of different ARPs, I can treat that as one stem. But just each layer. And I would send them also a reference mix, so my own reference mix that I did myself to give them an idea of how I want it to sound. And I would send them some notes and just some other musical references from other artists for like how I would like the song to sound. So yeah. What was the original sample? It was something I created, I think, using my Korg Minilog, which is an analog synthesizer. I don't have the original sample on hand, but it was a very noisy, gritty texture, which I just took snippets of and then heavily, heavily distorted and manipulated into various structures. So yeah, those are the chord elements. Pretty cool. I really like this like droning analog thing. So that's another drone that kind of complements it. I think this one's a digital one from Serum. Yeah, Serum. Phasing. A lot of these you barely notice in the mix as individual sounds because they kind of just provide background texture. But it's interesting to go through and like dissect it. This is like, I guess, more of the main chord sound that you hear. So this is Prophet V3, which is not a real Prophet. It's my Arturia plugin. Pardon me. I guess I've got COVID. No, I'm just kidding. Truno EDM, thank you for following. Yeah, so Prophet V3 is an Arturia plugin recreation of the original Prophet. Like Prophet 5, I should say. And it's just a really nice analog sounding synth plugin. Yeah, that's kind of carrying the main chord sound, and then there's another layer of Prophet here. Slightly wetter, more affected. Kind of sounds almost FM-y, but it's actually just actually it might be the Prophet plugin has this thing called Polymod, which can do kind of FM stuff like frequency modulation. So I think I used that. It's a cool sound. I really like that sound. Can you discuss your approach to those ARPs and processing to add that glitter? Yeah, I certainly can, if I know what you're talking about. Saya asks, do you have many revisions typically with George, or does he get there pretty quick? He usually gets there very quick. Usually there's like 1 or 2 revisions, but sometimes he nails it first go. Generally, it's like, yeah, a couple of revisions, and it's only usually tiny things. To be fair, I send him like pretty good mixes already. Like I get my mixes already sounding pretty damn nice, and then his work is more just fixing my mistakes rather than actually like building up the foundations of the mix. So yeah. Zeal, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Good to have you here. Wonk.org, you love those chords. Thank you so much. VRC gang here. Oh, VR chat, nice. I've never been on there. I should give it a go. Lack City, welcome. Good to have you here, man. Thanks for joining. Gang is in the chat. Eating some cereal and watching the man showing off his magic. Well, cereal's a good vibe. Good morning. Or, you know, you don't have to eat cereal in the morning, but, you know, I had cereal last night for dessert. It was good. Javier SGB, I just dropped by and tell you you're being talked about in the highest regard on a friend's channel. Really? That's so nice. I'm so glad to hear that. About to sleep, actually. It's late. Oh, I bet, dude. You in the UK, I believe? Black City, is that right? Just stopping by. Thank you for joining, man. I hope you get some good sleep. I hope you stay COVID free. Yeah, the UK. Yeah, cereal is a late night vibe for sure. Yeah, have a good sleep, Lax. Thanks for joining. VR chat set soon. I've never done anything like that, so it would be a bit of a learning curve, but I'm down to try. Down to try for sure. Let's keep powering through. Someone did ask about the ARPs, so let's have a look at those. Now, these are only pretty momentary in this song. They don't happen a whole lot. So this ARP, this second one, that's the more glittery one, and it's coming from Serum. Digital synths tend to have a lot more high end because they're not like analog is coming from like physical electronic oscillators, and they tend to have less high end because it's harder for electronic components to produce such high frequencies. But digital doesn't have any problem. So if I want to add like extra high end glitter on top, I'll generally use a digital synth. So I don't have the actual Serum instance here with me, but I would have basically just gone. I've spoken about this on my streams before. It's like several octaves of oscillators, like usually like a really high square wave in the top to give it that real sizzle, and then something more pure in the lower octave. But everything here is pretty high octave, to be fair. It's just like sounds like a sine wave layered with a square wave many octaves higher. Very fast arpeggiating flutter rate. And it's just two notes. It's the root and the fifth, which means it's kind of going up and down those two notes on key. So it's pretty much sitting in key no matter where it is. And there's definitely some width, like some reverb, short reverb on there, or some chorus. Look, I should probably pull up the thing. I don't know where I can find the original like Serum patch that I made for this, but it wouldn't be that much different to the way I've described how I make my ARPs in the past. Hey, thanks for raiding. Trino EDM, we've got a raid going on. Nice. Thank you so much. Dreamer Boy, welcome. Oh, and here's the friend. Good to have you here. Thanks so much for joining. Thanks for the kind words. And this other ARP here, my guess is I recorded this with the physical synth because it says audio 1, which sounds like it's a recording. So I think I probably used again the mini log. I don't think I had I certainly didn't have my Prophet when I made this. So it wouldn't be that. Probably my mini log. Actually, I can say with certainty that it is because that's the only analog synth I had at the time. So that's like an enveloping, like bubbly filter sweep, kind of like whoa, which is happening very quick. And then I'm running MIDI out of Ableton using an arpeggiator. So arpeggiating the MIDI coming out of Ableton into the synth, recording the synth audio back into Ableton. Whacked on a bunch of reverb, obviously. Saturated, EQ'd. But yeah, that's cool. Two little layers of ARPs. I kind of use the ARPs in this song more as like a homage because they only happen transitions between sections. ARPs can be a good way to do that. Didn't realize you streamed. We were just talking about wavy groovy beats and mentioned your stuff. Googled to grab a link and saw you were live. Oh, sick, man. Well, welcome. Yeah, I stream occasionally. I should probably do it more. I've been doing like song breakdowns on stream, which is what we're doing today. Breaking down my latest song. The song True showed me what I want to make one day. Hey, nice. Stupid. It's one of my first songs ever. Cutie Machines, thank you. Kind of good that the screen hasn't frozen. Touching wood, of course. We've gone for a while without the screen crashing, which is very nice to see. Thank you, screen. Thank you, capture card. Everyone touch wood for me, please. Okay, now a lot of people wanted to know about this vocal thing. People have mentioned the Kashmir Cat reference, which is very fair because he has also used this exact sound before. Not that I copied it off him. I actually only realized this later that he used the same sound. But, sorry, that's not actually the right sound. That's a different little verb melody. Again, I'm pretty sure this is either the sample that I used or audio coming from the Korg mini log to play a little melody, which I'm running through a bunch of reverb. Da-na-na-na, little melody embellishment. What do we got here? More analog synth noodles, similar to what I did with that drone earlier from the mini log. This is like arpeggiated sort of noodly kind of stuff coming out of there. A lot of, again, this would have been recorded live and I would have been using the filter sweep live as I recorded it. You can hear that like filter sweep, and there's like a delay, so when the filter comes up and down really quickly, you still get the delay tail like capturing that like filter sweep. Pretty resonant. Yeah, so that kind of just, it's kind of like the drone, like it just continues throughout the song. And because I recorded for the full length, like I recorded enough for the full length of the song, it doesn't repeat twice. It's all different throughout the whole thing. So even though it sits in the background, you're still hearing this unique texture at every point in the song, which is kind of nice. This is the vocal line. This is literally so easy to do that I can show you right now in like 10 seconds. Just going to keep up with the chat. Yeah, so this is literally, I think this is from Native Instruments Machine. I don't even have Machine, but I somehow have the samples. It's called Vocal R G3. Here it is. It's just a sample from Native Instruments, like from their factory, like machine library or whatever, I'm pretty sure. Now, I didn't create the sample, but it's publicly available. All you do, right, is you grab the sample. Oopsie. You get a MIDI track. This is exactly how I did it and how I've done it in all my songs that use this sound. You grab a MIDI track. You drop the sound in there. That creates a sampler with the sound in it, right? So now, it's a bit loud. So now it's mapped to my keyboard, right? All you have to do is map. I mean, if you want, you can go simpler to sampler, which gives you a bit more control. You can just put it at the right key, right? So you make sure that it's in the right note, hitting the right note. Then what you do to make sure, because you can play chords like this. If you want, you could do chords. But the way you get the cool glide is you go glide, on, and then you put it, I like to have it around 78-ish, but it depends on the song. Oh, and most importantly, you have to make it so it loops. So you get the loop marker. Now, luckily, this sample loops really well. A little bit of a crossfade on the loop so it doesn't snap. And that is it, folks. And that's it. You've created a keyboard out of the voice. Yeah, so literally all I've done is I've taken that one sample, which is singing a note. I've mapped it to my keyboard using a sampler, and then I'm making it so it loops. So no matter how long you hold the key, the note will continue rolling forever. And you can set up your own loop points, but it's very easy to do. You just like turn loop on and then crossfade where you want the loop to happen. And then you can play whatever you want. You can even add vibrato. Like if you want, you can use this LFO, which I do sometimes. I'll add a bit of pitch vibrato. So it actually like, it's almost like this, the singer is like singing vibrato, and you can control it with the mod wheel. Yeah, it's that simple. And you can set your own glide time. And that's all I did. And I added reverb. And there you have the melody. I loved using that sound just because it's such a clear vocal. Like I'll often even just use it as a placeholder for ideas. Like if I have a melody idea that I think could work as a vocal, I would just grab that sample, do exactly what I just did then, and like play it in with my keyboard, so that I can have the idea of the melody down. It just sounds, it kind of represents what a singer would do, and it sounds nice enough that. And in this song, I ended up keeping it because the kind of slidey, glidey electronic nature of it kind of just sounded nice. And I've used this in other songs too. Yeah. So there we go. That's that. No big secrets there, unfortunately. I did EQ it and like reverbed it and stuff just to make it sound a bit cleaner, but yeah. Guitars. So this is just some distorted guitar lines that I added very late in the production. This is mainly background guitar. There's not really lead guitar, so it's kind of just like long note strums. Yeah, and that's literally it. That's the whole song. What kind of amp / pedals did you use with this guitar sound? I used my Kemper. Although, that being said, I use my Kemper now, but at the time, I can't remember if I had my Kemper. It's possible that I did, but if I didn't, then I would have used one of two things. I would have used either Native Instruments Guitar Rig, which is just the software amp sim, or I would have used Positive Grid Bias Effects 2, which is another really like nice amp sim. It has like every amp you could ever want and pedals and stuff. But I'm pretty sure I had my Kemper at this point. And I think part of me putting the guitar in this was that I was excited about having my Kemper and like having some cool new pedals and stuff. And I just like laid down some guitar because I wanted to. This happened quite late in the production of this song. This was like probably the final edition. But yeah. So in terms of pedals, I have my Klon KTR, which I love. I'll show you. This is a legit Klon. For anyone who knows guitar stuff, The Klon Centaur is the most famous pedal ever. It's worth $5,000, probably more now. This is not a Centaur. Sorry, I should have said that clearly. This is not worth $5,000. This is worth about $500 or $600. But this is a reissue of the famous pedal made by the same guy, but it's not the original, but it's the same pedal. It's the same circuit. So yeah, so it's just an overdrive pedal. I also use a bunch of other Boss pedals, which I have in my cupboard. I don't know what I use for this song. I definitely would have used the Klon, and I probably also use like a blues driver and like a something else. It would have been just a simple overdrive tone. What guitar did I use? I'm pretty sure for this I used my Telecaster, which is the same guitar I used in Secret Sky. Yeah, great guitar. Can't go wrong with the Tele. Love my Tele. So yeah, that's it. And then in terms of mastering, I didn't master the song, but I did mix it. But for what you've been hearing, we've got an SSL channel, a little bit of EQ and compression there, not much, just to give it some flavor. Utility boosting the volume into that. Bit of EQ. The Tele is what I use in auto, yes. I also have a Strat. I might have used the Strat to record auto, but then I play auto live with the Tele. Yeah. Which Telecaster version do you have? I have a made in Japan 52 reissue. So it's like a reissue of the original Telecaster, essentially, more or less. But it's from like 2001 or something. It's made in Japan, which is really, really like Japanese guitars are really, really good quality. Love it. So yeah. Bit of stereo imaging on the master. A little bit of multiband on the master, which is rare for me. I think it's just to, again, tame all the crazy distorted high-end frequencies. Yeah, I don't know if I used any of this on the final master because I didn't master the song, but I probably, you know what I did? I would have used everything that's in this rack is on my mix, and then anything after the rack would have been taken off. So the mastering engineer could do a proper job. Oopsie, what have I done? Oh yeah. Oh, tape simulation. That's cool. Give it some analog dirt. And then I've actually got, so I recorded some sidechain signals from my original production, which I'm using here to trigger the sidechains, because I couldn't use the actual drum sounds as the sidechain source because it was all like printed into one big group. So I recorded the drum MIDI and the clap MIDI, which you can't hear in the song, obviously. They're just being used as drum sidechain triggers. So anything that's being sidechained to the drum is receiving the sidechain signal from these random little snippets. And then I had a reference track just for reference. OTT on the master every time. No, just kidding. I use OTT on the master sometimes if I want a quick and dirty bounce, which is fun sometimes. Guys, that pretty much covers it. now's your chance to get in any further. Like, look, I mean, actually, I should probably apologize because this breakdown wasn't quite as in depth as it could have been, mainly because of the process associated with this song. I didn't have access to the original samples that I used because of the way that just the nature of this song's production and the way that I composed this song is that, I mean, to be honest, I probably could dig it up somehow, but I don't have like the time or energy to do that right now. And I don't know how interesting it would be because I don't actually think, like, the sound itself is not interesting. It's a very boring, ordinary sound. It's the process that was interesting. And I don't have the process on hand because I bounced everything down and I resampled everything. That was kind of the modus operandi of this production, was to resample, not think, just go, produce, use processing, and just go, not thinking about the integrity or anything like that. I was just like using tons of distortion and just recording. So that's kind of what you get with this song. This is more like a mixdown project, which has all the stems and all the sounds laid out individually, but it doesn't go hugely into depth with the sound design process that I used. But I have spoken about a lot of that kind of stuff earlier, like with drum design, you know, like doing pitch envelopes on sounds and filtering certain parts of sounds, parallel processing sounds. That's all the stuff I would have done to help the sample come to life in the way that I wanted it to for this particular song. But yeah, it's the basic concept here is I took a piece of audio from my mini log, the analog synth behind the green screen, and I used it to flesh out an entire production, an entire song. How I did that is kind of lost in the ether. I don't even really remember. But it kind of goes to show, like, when you get into the zone of like producing and you get into the zone of like designing sounds and playing and experimenting with sounds, that's really that zone is the important part. It's not so much about what I did while I was in the zone. You know what I mean? But I do wish I could show you a bit more about that. Maybe in the future I'll do a stream where I start a similar concept from scratch. I have actually done streams like that. I did a stream where I did sound design and I gave the subs the samples. Basically starting from scratch, like doing sound design. Similar kind of thing, but more result driven rather than experimental. But yeah, the thing is also it takes hours to kind of get to that point. Like, you could start with the sound and not really know if it's going to end up any good, and then you could end up doing it and scrapping it, which I've done many times. It just happened to be that this one ended up kind of cool. So yeah, that kind of covers it for this song. Subtrot asks, unrelated to this song, but do you plan on breaking down some of your other newer tracks like Summer Rain or even some more of your older stuff? Yeah, possibly. I don't know when. I've done a few things like that. I've done a few in the past. You can probably check out my older broadcasts on my channel, which kind of go, some of them are older songs from like my older EP and singles and remixes and stuff. I'm quite busy with a few other like current projects, so I don't know when I'll be I'm trying to stream regularly, but well, now with lockdown, who knows? Maybe I'll stream heaps, but I can't lock in a particular schedule right now, unfortunately. But I'm gonna keep everyone updated. Join the Discord if you'd like to stay up to date. Just Henry. This is one more thing, and this is super off topic, but will you ever do like a brief overview of your Ableton project file that you used for Secret Sky? That's an interesting question. For the live show, we have a music director who helps us make all that, because it's very like, when you've got pieces of gear talking to each other and like MIDI setups and stuff, it can be quite complex. I mean, I know how it works, but to be honest with you, showing you the project is not interesting, because it's only interesting when you have everyone in the room with the gear. So for example, like the project file for Secret Sky has like random MIDI sends to like my guitar, to my bass guitar player's like keyboard, and like random MIDI sends to off-stage gear that I don't even have with me, or like click tracks that you can't hear, and like stuff like that. So it's just like, and then like the actual audio coming out is meant to be multi-tracked out using a piece of gear that I have to rent for the day. So like I don't actually have, you won't be able to even hear anything really unless I reroute all the audio tracks. So live show things like that are very like, it's hard to do on stream, especially demonstrating how that all works, because you wouldn't hear much. It would just be a lot of me talking and like thinking like, oh, if I had the gear with me, this is what you'd hear. Yeah. Anything coming to vinyl, keep your eyes peeled. That's all I can say. We got some stuff coming. Makes sense. I was just going to say, I saw a drum trigger on the drums and some other stuff during the show. And I was like, that is fucking cool. Yeah. We have a drum trigger. So he actually has his own little like SPD drum pad, which he maps himself. That's actually outside of the project. But we give him the samples and then he loads them into his SPD drum trigger thing and uses them while he's playing. So yeah, and then he has real drum mics on the kit as well. And then the project that we use for the stuff is mainly to cover like MIDI instruments, stuff that's played on MIDI keyboards, any MIDI being sent out to control other pieces of gear, and just audio playback from like the stems. So yeah, poggers. That's it, really. See, I probably should have switched over to this screen. That's what I meant to do. Yeah, how's everyone doing? You know, it's a Wednesday. It's midday here in Melbourne. Been going for about 2 hours, though apologies for the rough start where I had to restart because my computer was not playing nice. That was annoying. Anyone who stuck with me from the start, king shit. Well done. Thank you so much for your loyalty. You will be rewarded, my liege. Yeah, that was frustrating as hell. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. My streaming setup is not ideal, which is also another reason why I don't stream that often. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. That's my new song, What Are We Waiting For? Apologies if it wasn't quite as in-depth as some of the previous ones, just due to the nature of the song. It was more of me explaining rather than demonstrating. But I hope you enjoyed it regardless. So I think that's going to be it for the stream. Let's see if we can raid anyone. Let's have a look. Who's live? We've got Carter, Knowledge, Hannah, Brownies and Lemonade. What's Brown? Well, they got tons of viewers. 10,000. They don't need my raid. What am I going to give them? 30 viewers? Come on. They should be raiding me. No. Let's see. Let's raid Knowledge. Yeah? Let's raid Knowledge. We're going to raid Knowledge. Thank you for joining. Really appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next stream. Bye now.